moving now to macroeconomic management. Better macroeconomic management, better governance and better incentives for the private sector have produced higher growth in many African countries. But there has been little success in altering the structures and technology levels of African economies. The first Africa Transformation Index is to be launched in 2014, and I sat down with Mina Belamune, the Director of Research at the African Center for Economic Transformation, to find out what the index aims to achieve.
Well, we're not really prescriptives, we're more describing how, the level of transformation in a number of countries. We have focused on 15 sub-Saharan African countries, and so we would like to see who is transforming and who is not. And it turns out everybody is transforming. However, some are doing it slowly and other countries are doing it more rapidly.
And how do you define transformation?
We define it as transformation. It's a formula: transformation equal growth plus depth, where D stands for diversification, E stands for export competitiveness, P stands for productivity, T for technology, and H for human well-being.
And I understand that a preview of this particular report is available on your website. And
yes, it is.
From the preview, what can you tell us about the top performing countries in terms of the findings of the index, and what differentiates them from the ones that follow on?
Well, first of all, South Africa and Mauritius in general come up much higher than the rest. It's not just one thing that differentiates, but these two countries do best in diversification, export competitiveness, for example, for Mauritius, and a few other things, because we look also at the formal employment, we look at productivity, whether it has improved over time or not. What we do is that we try to look at 2005 and 2010, but mostly we compared the level of transformation in 2010 to 2000. Yeah. And so the countries are compared to each other, but they're also compared whether they have improved through time or not.
So it's a fixed frame, a window that you're looking at to see whether the transformation has happened there. Yeah. Perhaps let's talk a little bit about the challenges to transformation. As you went about gathering the data, what were the key outcomes of what's standing in the way of transformation?
One of the major problems is data itself. As you know, in Africa, in some countries, not all, I mean, there are a few countries that really are making a serious effort to gathering data and providing us with data. But in most countries, you find that data either they are not available, or when they are available, you get different pictures depending on who you are talking to. And that can be problematic. So we had to go through a process of verifying and verifying and verifying again.
And where do you want the index to lead into? One would assume that you're looking for an impact on macroeconomic policy. Is this correct? And how do you want to influence that?
For the report itself, we want to first describe these countries are growing. Africa has in the top 10 growing countries that are growing the most in the world, 7 are African, right? And that's going to continue. We don't expect it to change. It's going to continue or even improve. We might have even more African countries growing faster than some countries in the rest of the world. But then, is this growth leading to transforming the lives of people? Leading to people getting more education? Is it leading to firms, small businesses having more productivity, or farmers having more productivity?
You know, Mina, oftentimes we hear skeptics of Africa's growth story pointing out to the fact that it seems like the continent is still reliant on mineral resources, and this economic cycle is likely to go bust at some point. From the work that you've done, have you seen real diversification, or do the skeptics have a leg to stand on?
We see real diversification in some countries. We see also strong attempts to try to diversify. But we also have countries that depend only on one or two commodities still. The commodity issue is really very tricky, because if you are a government faced with, you need revenues right away. Right? You need money in the budget and so on. And you have countries, whether it's China or other countries, that demand these commodities a lot and they're willing to pay for them. Right. And you know that if you take a step back and start setting up businesses and all these things, they're going to be great for the country, but they may take time. Yeah. But you need the money for the budget. So although I might not agree completely with it, but then if I were in that position, I would really go for the money that's coming for the commodities. Now, what in this case is really policymakers ought to do is try to think also, how can I still produce the commodity, but next to it I can have some businesses or some industries that have synergies with that raw material, with that product or mining or mineral. So some governments, some states in Africa are already doing that, and we're hoping that the rest of African countries really build